Before we begin, make sure you hit like and subscribe, because on this channel we break down the hidden infrastructure that actually shapes global geopolitics. Today we're talking about a place most people have never heard of, Kharg Island. It's a small island in the Persian Gulf, but it handles around 90% of Iran's crude oil exports. That means a huge portion of Iran's economic lifeline flows through this single location. In today's escalating tensions in the Middle East, this tiny island has suddenly become one of the most strategically important places on the planet. Because if Kharg Island stops working, the consequences wouldn't just hit Iran. They could ripple through global energy markets and trigger economic shockwaves far beyond the region. Kharg Island sits roughly 26 kilometers off Iran's southern coast near the city of Bushehr in the Persian Gulf. On the map it looks small and isolated, but it was built for one very specific purpose: exporting oil at massive scale. The waters around the island are unusually deep compared to much of Iran's coastline. That allows supertankers and very large crude carriers to dock and load oil directly. The island also contains enormous storage facilities capable of holding around 30 million barrels of crude oil. So this island is not just a port. It is a massive industrial export terminal designed to move Iranian oil into the global market as efficiently as possible. Every day, roughly 1.7 million barrels of oil leave Iran through Kharg Island. Most of these shipments head toward Asian markets, especially China. This makes Kharg Island more than just infrastructure. It is effectively Iran's revenue engine. Oil exports finance a large portion of the Iranian government's budget and support everything from economic stability to military capability. If exports continue flowing, Iran continues earning. If exports stop, the economic pressure on the country increases almost immediately. That is why this island plays such an outsized role in the geopolitical tension surrounding Iran. In mid-March 2026, Kharg Island suddenly became part of the battlefield. Military strikes reportedly hit defensive infrastructure on the island, including air defense systems, a naval base, the airport control tower, and helicopter facilities. But one thing stood out. The oil export terminal itself was not targeted. That decision matters. Because striking the oil infrastructure would represent a massive escalation, potentially shutting down Iran's primary export hub and sending shockwaves through global energy markets. For now, the oil facilities remain intact, but the message is clear. Kharg Island is now inside the conflict zone. To understand the strategic importance of Kharg Island, we need to compare it with another famous location, the Strait of Hormuz. The Strait of Hormuz is a global choke point. It affects oil shipments for many countries and influences global energy supply. Kharg Island is different. It is Iran's national choke point. It controls the majority of Iran's own oil exports. So if the Strait of Hormuz affects the world's oil flow, Kharg Island affects Iran's oil flow. And when tensions rise in the Gulf, these two choke points become tightly connected. From a military perspective, Kharg Island is an extremely tempting target. First, its infrastructure is highly concentrated. Much of Iran's export capability sits in one location. Second, it is highly visible and accessible from both sea and air. Third, it is economically critical. Disrupting this island directly affects Iran's ability to generate revenue. And finally, it is very difficult to replace. The deep waters and specialized infrastructure make it hard to replicate somewhere else quickly. All of these factors together make Kharg Island one of the most strategically sensitive pieces of energy infrastructure in the region. If Kharg Island is so critical, a natural question arises. Why hasn't its oil terminal been destroyed? The answer is escalation. A direct strike on the oil export infrastructure could remove up to 2 million barrels of oil per day from global markets. That kind of disruption could send oil prices soaring and trigger retaliatory attacks across the region. Energy infrastructure throughout the Gulf could suddenly become targets. So instead of immediately hitting the oil terminal, the current strategy appears to focus on deterrence and pressure rather than outright destruction. But the risk remains. If Kharg Island's export terminal were seriously damaged, the consequences would unfold quickly. For Iran, it would mean revenue loss and economic pressure during wartime. For the region, it would increase risks to Gulf energy facilities and shipping lanes. Insurance costs for tankers would spike, and maritime traffic could slow dramatically. For the global economy, the impact could include higher oil prices, rising inflation, and increased fuel costs. Energy markets react quickly to disruptions, and even the threat of a shutdown can push prices higher. That's why this island matters far beyond the Persian Gulf. Much of Iran's exported oil travels to Asia. China, in particular, relies on Iranian crude as part of its energy supply. That means any disruption at Kharg Island would not just affect Iran. It could ripple through Asian energy markets almost immediately. Shipping routes, refinery operations, and fuel pricing across the region could feel the impact. This is one reason global powers closely monitor developments around Kharg Island. Because the stability of a single small island can influence energy flows across half the world. If the Strait of Hormuz is the artery of global energy, then Kharg Island is Iran's economic heart valve. It's a small piece of land with enormous strategic significance. Geography, infrastructure, and geopolitics all converge in this one location. And that's why this island has become so important in today's conflict. Because modern wars are not only fought with missiles and armies. They're also fought through critical infrastructure and strategic choke points. If you found this breakdown useful, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it. And stay tuned, because we'll keep explaining the hidden infrastructure that shapes global power.